I was thrilled with the idea of the march, and I loved every minute of it. And one of the reasons is I was in graduate school in the 70s, and those were really very powerful times for women. Everybody was very involved with women's rights and thinking about how we operated in society, and then it kind of died out. So when Donald Trump came along, it really galvanized us to start thinking about who we are as women and to feel more powerful. It was really when Hillary was running, because we identified with her and we were thrilled with her. Now it's more, it's a women's march for women's rights and all people's rights. It's mainly, for me, an anti-Donald Trump, and I think it's wonderful to gather together so quickly and make such a powerful statement. As for the actual march itself, it was amazing. From the moment I got in the line at the subway stop, it was so crowded that it wasn't a march, it was a creep or a crawl because there were so many people. Everybody was so polite and so considerate and so welcoming that was just, it was better than I ever thought it would be, and I never saw so many people in one place in my life.
I arrived the day of the inauguration, and I was on a subway, and everyone around me was wearing the red hats saying "Make America Great Again," and I felt really crushed and overwhelmed. But the next day it was a totally different situation, and I regained hope. It was a very positive event. It was kind of like a 400,000 person love fest. It's one of the most momentous occasions of my lifetime. And my parents were both very, very active. They were both immigrants, actually. And they were very active in the civil rights movement, and they would take us to marches. And it's something that, is just at the core of my being. I really feel grateful to this country for having welcomed my parents at the time. I wouldn't have had the life that I've had, and they made a very good life for themselves here. So I'm really grateful, and I really want America to continue representing tolerance and goodwill, and I'm hoping that we can regain that. My favorite moment was at the very end of the march. During the march, there was no police presence at all. There weren't any helicopters. It wasn't at all what I expected. I mean, it was just, at least there were no policemen there was no police presence that I was aware of until the very end. And on the outskirts of the march, I saw a huge clump of policemen, and they were all wearing the pink pussy hats, and they were really jubilant. And they hoisted one of the police women in the air, and it was just a really joyful moment. One of the great things about the end of the march was that almost everyone who was holding a sign took the signs and placed it on the fence in front of the White House. I understand some signs went to the Trump Hotel, but it was really an incredible experience to see, thousands of signs all in a row like that. I made a couple of signs. They're professionally produced. One of them said "Free Melania," and that got a lot of smiles from that one. And then the other one said, what did it say? Sorry. Oh, "Compassion, try it, you'll like it."
I wanted to go because I needed to see how many people were really in the same space that I was in. I wanted to be with those people. I wanted to feel like a part of something that was very large and very powerful. I think for me, I was a marshal, and that really helped as well, because I felt like usually I'm just a protester at marches, and I've been to many marches. And when I had the chance to really see so many people that looked like it was their first time at a march, and to see that we were really not just a fringe, but we were really like mainstream, and that so many people were now getting ready to go out and fight, it was inspiring. Well, it was my first time being a marshal, and we showed up at the training at 9 a.m. and they basically said, you're going to have to improvise. And it turned out during the march, our cell phones didn't work. We couldn't text people. We really were on our own as marshals, and there was approximately 1,000 people for every marshal, so it was, the ratio was pretty challenging. They had been concerned about infiltrators and that we might have to deal with people that were deliberately trying to cause a problem. And so there was some intrepidation during the training, but once we got out there, we realized that the mood was completely different, and all the police were relaxed, and everyone was relaxed and happy, and it was just a joyous moment. The demographics of the march were amazing, and yeah, there were men there, and they felt perfectly comfortable, but at the same time, it was a women's march. It was really, there wasn't really that kind of question about whose march it was. And what impressed me was the diversity of the ages. There were women there that were over 90 years old, and there were, of course, little babies, and everything in between. It was all generations of women marching together. Well, I think both of the moments I actually recorded, I got a picture of. One was two little Asian girls who had these cute little signs that said "Girl Power" and "Tiny but Mighty," and the other was someone who is a quadriplegic who has been really at the head of the disability rights movement and helped bring medical care, universal entitlement to Massachusetts. And he was bravely in his wheelchair at an intersection with a sign that said, "Don't put me in a nursing home." So it was powerful. I think we don't really know what it's like to fight back. We haven't done this in the past. We're not a country that's had revolutions every few years. This isn't within our collective memory. So we're going to have to figure this out together. How do we fight back?